Warm greetings from the High 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans on this Friday, June 26, 2020. There is some information I'd like to bring to you all. It is an update to a story of two missing children who were found deceased in a grave on property of their mother's new husband. I didn't discuss this storyline months ago because I didn't have the patience for all the intricate details, and it was just a long-winded storyline. And I had watched a documentary on this Lori Vallow's storyline with her new husband, and I will now bring you the said information. And if you need verification for the storyline, it is IBT. Lori Vallow update. New footage indicates something had gone wrong prior to Tylee JJ's disappearance. This was updated yesterday at 3:11 p.m. New details about Lori Vallow and her husband, Chad Daybell, have continued to emerge following the disappearance of her children, Tylee Ryan and Joshua JJ Vallow. Now, after the remains of the children were discovered on Daybell's Idaho property earlier this month, new police body cam footage of Charles Vallow, her late ex-husband, is adding fresh context to the ongoing investigation. According to Inside Edition, the newly released footage shows Charles asked law enforcement officials in Gilbert, Arizona to help his family due to Lori's seemingly erratic behavior. At that time, he indicated that she was in the midst of an alleged mental breakdown and indicated that he was concerned about what she would do to Tylee and JJ. The footage and additional 911 calls are from January 2019, which was 6 months before Charles was killed by Lori's brother, Alex Cox. Tylee and JJ were reported missing later after that same year in the fall. And you also will see a said update pertaining to Lori Vallow, pertaining to the remains of the children, and a discussion about Chad Daybell's defense in the said article. I want her to get help. She's my wife. I love her to death. Something's gone wrong. And if she wants me gone, fine. I can do all that stuff. I just don't want her to hurt JJ. I just don't want her to hurt anybody else, Charles told Gilbert Police Department officers. After explaining that JJ had special needs, the official asked if he was safe at school. Right, for now, Charles replied. As stated by the publication, Charles had initially contacted the police after returning home from a business trip and finding that his truck had been moved from the airport parking lot and that the two children were missing. Later, he would indicate that he was worried Lori would flee or harm Tylee and JJ. In a released 911 call, it is also shared that Charles had called authorities in January 2019 to ask if Lori could be held at the Gilbert police station after she had willingly gone to speak to law enforcement. At that time, she had stated that Charles had stolen her purse while she was dropping JJ off at school. However, he countered that narrative by saying he had taken her belongings in an attempt to have her stay in one place long enough so that an emergency mental health petition could be served. Prior to the release of the new footage, other first-hand accounts of both Vallow and Daybell have revealed additional facets of the ongoing case. Previously, not only did a neighbor discuss Daybell's strange behavior, but it had also been said by a former friend of his that she believed he had opened the doors of darkness. Additionally, Daybell's deception from a former colleague was also discussed in recent weeks. As for where the case is headed following the positive identification of Tylee and JJ's remains, Daybell has since made his first post-charge court appearance, where he learned that his bail had been set at $1 million. His next court date is set for July 1st. Okay, so that was one article by IBT. I don't want to get winded because, as I stated, that was the very reason why I didn't cover this case in the first place, because there was so many intricate details. But most of you know, and I am late bringing this story because, as I stated, I have taken a break from YouTube. The children's remains, the brother and sister remains, have been found on an Idaho property belonging to Mr. Daybell, the mother, Lori Vallow's new husband. Most of you have probably watched the Dateline documentary pertaining to this storyline leading up to now, the discovery of the children's remains. And I'm trying to figure out why the police did not go to Chad Daybell's property and look for the children months ago, when you realized these children were missing and that she was married to Mr. Daybell. And she never brought forth the children. She wouldn't speak of the children. Family members were trying to reach the children. The grandparents were trying to reach JJ, to no avail. Why didn't the said city that they were living in at that time not say, we need to issue a warrant for discovery of this man's property, or Idaho step in, because I believe we're dealing with different jurisdictions, so I'm sure that would cause a problem with getting warrants issued and search warrants issued for his property, because we're talking about Idaho, Arizona, Hawaii, because I do remember watching a documentary. They fled to Hawaii, and news people tracked them down to do storylines on them. They wouldn't speak, they wouldn't talk. Obviously you didn't see any children with them, so it leads one to believe something was amiss. There is a report of a woman going to babysit for Miss Vallow, to babysit the son. So that means the girl child was not visible. And she stated to this babysitter that the daughter would come in and out to wash her clothes, stop in. She didn't live there. Yeah. Okay, so now we can wonder if she killed the daughter first, got rid of her, and then proceeded to kill and dispose of the boy child, JJ. It's all riveting and disgusting behavior of two sinister beings. I always knew that she murdered those children. She is a co-conspirator, an orchestrator, and or allowed that man to murder her kids. And now that we have the discovery of the children on his property, there is no way he cannot say he didn't have any participation. Because why would she go to your house and bury her kids on the property, and then after the fact play crazy to authorities about where her children were, and never reveal where her children were, and nor did you reveal where her children were? She knew where they were all this time, because she killed those kids. Well, Mr. Daybell killed the children, but she had knowledge, whichsoever. It's not going to matter in the end, because she's complicit either way, whether she pulled the hammer, the gun, whichever way it went with the deaths of these children. The sad part is that the husband, who is no longer living, murdered by her brother, knew that something was wrong with her earlier in that year, January of 2019. You will see that in the video footage that has been released to the public about the interrogation of her at the police station, trying to file a report about him stealing her purse, her belongings. You see the sickness that was going on in their marriage. I really wish this man had left her altogether and got full custody of the children and went his separate way. But as you see, when you fiddle around with people and play games with them and mind games, and things are tied up in the courts with divorce proceedings, dividing a property, arguing back and forth, that's when the wheels begin to turn and a person decides they no longer want to go toe-to-toe with you in court. They'll just knock you off altogether and be done with it, and get your said money from your account, 401k, life insurance, work, yeah. And I believe that's what happened in this situation. The fact that Mr. Daybell's wife died without an autopsy leads one to believe he murdered her. All these strange occurrences with people getting their cars shot at, his wife being deceased, her husband being shot by her brother, is just non-stop nonsense. And then isn't there some information about her brother's death? If I'm not mistaken, that's suspicious. So you see, it's non-stop BS. That he had the symptoms that Mr. Daybell's wife had of pink foam coming out of the mouth. I googled that because I commented on another YouTuber's channel about the said death of the brother and Mr. Daybell's wife with the pink foam coming out of the mouth. It could be a sign of overdose. It could be the sign of poisoning. And other various reasons could cause one to foam pink foam out of their mouth after death. It's just a sad case that you have all these suspicious deaths, then the deaths of these children buried on a property of the mother's new husband, and yet they have nothing to say about these deaths. It's sickening and it's sad. And it's sad that that child was sent to live with the deceased husband, and then his wife kills this child who's not even her child. How can you murder this child? He wasn't even your biological child. And you thought so little of him to murder him and your own daughter. And then you'll see photos of these people. And at some point, you could view it and say, well, they seemed happy. They had pictures of she and JJ on the beach. But what does that mean now? He's dead. So one would have to say, was she coerced by Mr. Daybell and his sick ideology and religious ideology, that she was weak-minded and followed him to the depths of hell and mayhem to murder her own children? Or was she lucid and complicit in murdering her children? I don't believe in following people anywhere. I don't care who they are. Man, woman, child, religious figure. I don't get down like that. And my mind is not that weak to just do anything you say or what you ask of me. In the name of God, Allah, or anyone. I think for myself. But unfortunately, we have people who don't have that type of security in themselves to think on their own accord. They have to walk and follow in behind others and do what others say, mimic others. What is the truth in this case? Well, we know 2 children are found dead, and we know that these 2 are complicit. Now, who did the actual murdering? We will find out. But I do believe both parties are guilty. And it is sad to see children lose their lives because of some sick people who didn't want them around. Because I don't even think it's about a 4th coming, a 33rd coming of God, Jesus, Noah. You just were selfish and didn't want to be bothered. And that's my take on it. I don't believe in all that hoopla. People using the Bible as a crutch to make up crazy stories and versions. And many people have done it over time, using the Bible as a crutch for their own sick thinking, their sick ways, wanting to be liked. You know, the Jim Jones mentality. That's all this was. But in the end, it has nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with Jesus. It has nothing to do with the Bible or religious teachings. It's about a person who is narcissistic and a sociopath that wanted to sit high up on the throne and be followed and idolized by others. Prayers for this family, those who are actually grieving the deaths of these 2 innocent children and the communities that they lived in, school, neighbors. But one thing that bothers me the most about this case is the fact that the husband knew she was off her rocker and didn't take the children to a safe haven in time. The fact that people now want to come forward with different versions about who these people were. It's a little late now to give the 411 on Lori and Mr. Chad Daybell. You see, if you saw something and knew something wasn't right, you saw a child that wasn't visible anymore, maybe you should have said something. I realize a lot of people don't want to be nosy parkers. They don't want to get involved in things. They don't want to have to later testify in juvenile court or criminal court due to the behavior of adults who are rearing these children. But you see, in the end, testifying after the fact, who does it serve? Because the children or the people who have been murdered, they're dead. They can't speak for themselves. They can't come back. And you're now giving a story and version a little too late. I get it. There can be repercussions for opening your mouth, depending on the people you're dealing with. But you see, these 2 people are nothing but 2 lonely, empty vessels, 2 lonely cowards that snuffed out 2 babies. That's just a spoken word. And if you had to go toe-to-toe with Lori Vallow or Chad Daybell, they wouldn't do nothing but flinch and crawl up in a ball and cry and moan. Because you see, they would never go toe-to-toe with a real human being, a grown-up. And that's why they snuffed out 2 kids, because they are cowards. I will bring you an update to this said story. It is a riveting story. Please check out the Dateline documentary leading up to the storyline of finding these 2 children deceased. There was a documentary done recently. It is a very thorough and very intricate, well-detailed documentary done by Dateline, and kudos to NBC because I'm an avid follower of the NBC network and the Dateline documentaries that have been done numerous years now. They do a very well thought-provoking documentary about this woman and her life and all the people involved in the storyline pertaining to these two children. And it's sickening to know that that young boy was given to the father to take care of, and his wife killed him and her own child, and she was to be responsible alongside the father of these children. Special needs or not, he deserved to be loved, such as his sister. And he literally was living in the house with a stranger. The grandparents could no longer take care of him because of his special needs, but how crazy is it now? That baby is gone because of this sick woman. And the father is also gone. There are no words. Thanks for joining me. You all have a safe weekend. God bless all of you. And this is Everyday Shenanigans. Take care and be safe. Bye-bye.